Rosemary is famous for supporting memory and even digestion, but this aromatic plant can do even more. Rosemary is also fabulous for hair growth. Are you wondering what the facts are about this? In this episode, I'm sharing exactly how rosemary is good for hair growth. Plus, I'm going to give you 2 DIY rosemary recipes for hair growth, including an infused rosemary oil recipe, plus a rosemary water recipe for hair growth. Hello and welcome to the Herbs with Rosalee podcast, a show exploring how herbs heal as medicine, as food, and through nature connection. I'm your host, Rosalee de la Forêt. I created this YouTube channel to share trusted herbal wisdom so that you can get the best results when relying on herbs for your health. I love offering up practical knowledge to help you dive deeper into the world of medicinal plants and seasonal living. Each episode of the Herbs with Rosalee podcast is shared on YouTube as well as your favorite podcast app. Transcripts and recipes for each episode can be found at herbswithrosaleepodcast.com or through the link in the video description. Also in the video description, you'll find other helpful resources. For example, to get my best herbal tips, as well as fun bonuses, be sure to sign up for my weekly herbal newsletter. Okay, grab your cup of tea and let's dive in. It's easy to dismiss rosemary as a simple culinary herb to spice up your roasted potatoes, but when we ask, what are the facts about rosemary, we can see this is one heck of a powerful plant. In fact, there's so much to share about rosemary that I'm splitting this into 2 parts. In part 1, I'm sharing about the facts about rosemary for hair growth, and in the second part, I'm discussing rosemary's many other plant benefits, especially how those are related to addressing inflammation. Rosemary is such a beloved plant. Do you have experience with rosemary plant benefits? If so, then I'd love to hear about it in the comments on YouTube or on the official podcast page, herbswithrosaleepodcast.com. Your comments mean a lot to me, and I love cultivating a community of kind-hearted, plant-loving folks. Plus, it's always interesting and insightful to hear the experiences of plant lovers out there. And you never know, your suggestion may also help others. Okay, let's dive in. And by the way, although I do grow rosemary in my garden, here is just a tiny little shrub. So if you're wondering, why is Rosalee standing amidst all of these dahlias? Is she just trying to show off? That is actually the case. But we have a little bit of rosemary here to bring with us. Rosemary for hair growth. Rosemary for hair growth might sound too good to be true. So you might be asking yourself, what are the facts? Well, in herbal medicine, there are many ways of knowing. We can know things that have been passed down through traditional and historical use because people have been working with herbs in very clever ways for literally thousands of years. We also have modern day use of herbs, and we can learn from our contemporary herbalists who have a lot of personal experiences working with people and herbs. And we can also learn from researchers who are studying herbs in varying capacities, whether that's in vitro or through clinical trials. It's important to note that none of these methods are infallible. While there's a lot of wisdom in traditional and historical use of herbs, they didn't always get it right. Also, there's lots of brilliant contemporary herbalists who are incredibly knowledgeable about herbs, and as you know, I've brought many to the podcast for guest episodes. But there are also people out there who just want to sell you something, so they exaggerate or misrepresent the benefits of an herb. In regards to science, it's important to keep in mind that researchers aren't here to prove anything, right? That's not how science works. Instead, they simply start with a hypothesis, they then gather data, they test their hypothesis, and then they share their results. There are a lot of things that can negatively influence or even misrepresent the results of a study. It could be a personal bias, a monetary bias, or even simply a poorly designed study. When I share modern day research, I do my best to be transparent about the relevancy of the study. For example, I tell you if the study was done in vitro, which means tested in a lab, often involving petri dishes, or I tell you if the study was designed as a human clinical trial. I do not, never, ever share studies done on animals. And that's because I don't think it's within a human's right to torture another living being to test a hypothesis like, does rosemary promote hair growth? There are better ways of knowing. Luckily, when it comes to knowing the facts of rosemary for hair growth, we can pull from a lot of sources. For example, a lot of herbalists report that they have seen rosemary oil and rosemary water support hair growth. And we also have a well-designed human clinical trial that shares promising results regarding rosemary for hair growth. This study was a randomized, double-blind study. It split 86 patients with hair loss into two groups. One group was given a blend of essential oils that included rosemary to rub into the scalp. The other group was given an oil without essential oils. After 7 weeks, almost half of the people in the essential oil group showed improvement in hair growth, while only 6% showed improvement in the control group. That's some impressive results. And I also want to point out some things about this study. The first is that half of the people who used rosemary for hair growth saw some return of hair growth. So that doesn't mean that 100% of people who try rosemary for hair growth will be successful. But to me, that percentage does mean it's worth giving it a try. The study also used essential oils. Essential oils have their place, but they're not always the best way to work with rosemary for hair growth. And in just a bit, I'm sharing a potent recipe for infused rosemary oil that you can easily make at home. I'm also sharing a recipe for rosemary water for hair growth. Lastly, I want to point out that the positive results of this study took 7 weeks. So, in other words, don't try rosemary once and then expect to wake up with Rapunzel-like hair the following day. I know that hair loss can be very difficult emotionally, and unfortunately, there are people who will try to take advantage of that. Herbs can definitely be powerful allies in helping your body to be able to grow hair again, but beware of anyone trying to sell you a miracle cure for hair loss. Okay, let's dive into those recipes. Rosemary water for hair growth. The first recipe is rosemary water for hair growth. This is a super simple recipe that you can use daily in the shower or bath. But first, an important note. This rosemary water for hair growth recipe is best for people who have darker hair. Otherwise, the rosemary water can darken lighter hair. Okay, so to make this recipe, you just want to place a 1/4 cup of dried rosemary leaves into a pint-sized jar, and then you want to fill that jar with just boiled hot water. You cover it, and then let it steep for 10 minutes. Then you strain and let it cool to a comfortable temperature. You can then pour this onto your hair while you're in the shower or bath. You want to do this after you've already washed and conditioned your hair, because basically you just want to leave it in. You could also try to create some type of setup where you soak your scalp in this rosemary water for up to 20 minutes or so, but that can be a bit difficult to do. This rosemary water for hair growth only lasts about a day, so it needs to be made up and then used daily. Another similar option is to infuse dried rosemary into apple cider vinegar for 4 weeks. Then you can strain this and put it in a spray bottle. You can then spray your hair with this mixture, again, preferably in the shower or bath when your hair is wet. And some people like to dilute this vinegar with 30% water. Rosemary water for hair growth is a super simple and easy way to work with rosemary, but it's not actually my favorite way. Let's look at the second recipe. Rosemary oil recipe for hair growth. The following recipe is a potent remedy for rosemary for hair growth. This recipe uses rosemary as a whole herb, which is often the best way to use it. If desired, you could also add essential oils to this mixture. Unlike the rosemary water for hair growth recipe that I shared above, you don't need to make this daily. Making whole herb infused oils isn't hard, but there are a lot of tricks to it, so be sure to follow this recipe exactly. To begin, you want to be sure you have the best rosemary possible. I recommend using freshly dried rosemary that's still highly aromatic and retains the dark color of its leaves. This recipe also includes a bit of powdered cayenne pepper, another powerful stimulant for hair growth. You'll also need to choose your carrier oil. I recommend something light as well as shelf stable. So examples could be jojoba oil, almond oil, or apricot kernel oil. Most people will find that olive oil is just too heavy for this particular recipe. Okay, so for this recipe, you'll need 95 grams of dried rosemary leaves, 2 cups of carrier oil of your choice, 20 grams powdered cayenne pepper, and then, if you'd like, some rosemary essential oil. So here's how to make rosemary oil for hair growth. Place the rosemary, cayenne, and oil into a blender or food processor and blend for 3 to 5 minutes. Then you want to pour out that mixture into a glass jar, and you don't want there to be a lot of excess head space in this jar, so find one that fits the amount pretty well. Then you want to cover that tightly with a lid, label, always label, and leave it in a cool, dark place on your counter, and you want to shake it often. You're going to let this sit for 4 to 6 weeks and then strain it off when it's ready. If desired, you could add about 15 drops of rosemary essential oil to each ounce or 30 mils of your infused oil. Depending on which carrier oil that you use, this preparation will last about a year. Then, if you smell any sort of rancidity, the oil has gone bad and it's time to discard it. How to use rosemary infused oil for hair growth. All right, now that you have your potent rosemary infused oil for hair growth, here's how you can use it. At night, you can massage a bit of the oil into the area with hair loss. So the idea here is just to gently massage some oil into your scalp itself. You don't need to put it on your hair or put it on really thickly. The goal is just to get a bit massaged specifically into your scalp. You can then wear like a silk sleep cap or put a towel over your pillow so that you just don't get bunches of oil all over your sheets. Also, this is very important, you want to wash your hands after massaging the oil in because the cayenne in this recipe can really irritate your eyes or other sensitive mucous membranes. So I recommend massaging this into your scalp about 3 to 5 times a week for several months. Making your own herbal remedies to address your health complaints is empowering. And I love that you can reach for 2 plants that you can grow near you to help with hair loss. And I especially love herbal infused oils. They're some of my favorite preparations because there's so many uses for them. Take rosemary, for example. While we know it can be supportive to hair growth, it's also a wonderful herb to promote overall skin health too. It's been shown to help with skin that's been damaged by too much sun and even skin that's been damaged by pollution. One of my favorite things to make with herbal infused oils is body butters. Body butters are these deeply nourishing and soothing preparations that can be both medicine for the skin as well as just rejuvenating self-care. To learn how you can transform a rosemary oil recipe into a body butter, you can check out my friend Cammie McBride's free training. She'll show you exactly how to make an herbal body butter with great tips on how to increase the shelf life of your body butter. Body butters also make fabulous gifts, so this is especially perfect for the holidays coming up. And this training is free, but it's only available for a very short amount of time, so check it out today. I'll include the link in the show notes and the video description. In the meantime, don't miss out on your free printable recipe cards for rosemary oil plus rosemary water for hair growth. If you are watching on YouTube, you can click the link in the video description, or if you're listening to the podcast, just go directly to the show notes at herbswithrosaleepodcast.com. Also in the video description and show notes, I've included other helpful links like where you can buy rosemary, as well as both of my books. If you enjoyed this video on rosemary oil and water for hair growth, and you value trusted herbal information, then I hope you'll stick around. The best way to get started is to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast app. All right, so one of the best ways to retain and then also fully understand something you've just learned is to share it in your own words. So with that in mind, I invite you to share your takeaways with me and the entire Herbs with Rosalee community. You can leave comments on my YouTube channel, on the herbswithrosaleepodcast.com show notes page, or simply hit reply to my Wednesday email. I read every single comment that comes in, and I'm excited to hear your herbal thoughts about rosemary for hair growth. I deeply believe that this world needs more herbalists and plant-centered folks, and I'm so glad that you're here as part of this herbal community. Also, a big round of thanks to the people all over the world who make this podcast happen week to week. Nicole Paul is the project manager who oversees the whole operation, from guest outreach to writing show notes to actually uploading each episode and so many other things I don't even know. She really holds this whole thing together. Francesca is our fabulous video and audio editor. She not only makes listening more pleasant, she also adds beauty to the YouTube videos with plant images and video overlays. Tatiana Rusakova is the botanical illustrator who creates gorgeous plant and recipe illustrations for us. I love them. I know that you do too. Christy edits the recipe cards, and then Jenny creates them as well as the thumbnail images for YouTube. Michelle is the tech wizard behind the scenes, and Karen is our student services coordinator and customer support. For those of you who like to read along, Jennifer is who creates the transcripts each week. Xavier, my handsome French husband, is the cameraman and website IT guy. It takes an herbal village to make it all happen, including you. Okay, you've done it. You've lasted to the very end of the show, which means you get a gold star and this herbal tidbit. So this episode was using rosemary topically to promote hair growth. And as I pointed out, rosemary is often used like this. And this use has been supported by at least one human clinical trial, as well as lots of herbalists' experiences. But there are also other ways to work with herbs for hair growth. While topical solutions are helpful, people often need to look inwards to understand what might be causing hair loss. For example, nettle nourishing herbal infusions can be a way to give your body key building blocks for hair growth. This remedy is rich in nutrients that are necessary for hair growth. So check out my previous videos on stinging nettle for more information. Also, working with an herbalist directly can help you dive more deeply into reasons for hair loss, which could include things like stress, thyroid issues, hormonal changes, etc. I no longer see clients, but I have a fabulous list of practitioners on my website at herbswithrosalee.com. Before I go, I wanted to mention that rosemary has been a really popular herb on this show. So if you're ready to dive deep into even more rosemary, then see my interviews with Felicia Cocotzin Ruiz, who's an indigenous foods activist, natural food chef, and curandera, Christophe Bernard, who is my good friend and a celebrated French herbalist, and Erica Galantin, who is a brilliant herbal clinician. All of these episodes contain a lot of interesting information about rosemary, and they all share creative rosemary recipes for your health. And lastly, don't forget to look for part 2 of this rosemary series, where I dive deeper into many rosemary plant benefits, plus I share a delicious recipe for rosemary for inflammation. Enjoy rosemary.